Greetings, welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast. Making a Slip and Dip debut. He'll be fighting next week at UFC 236 against Dwight Grant. Mr. Jouban, UFC welterweight veteran. Thanks for joining the show, man.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Not next week. I mean, it's nearing in.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Two weeks. Yeah.
I've been like looking like on the thing today when I was watching the Gaethje, and I'm like, oh, I keep thinking it's like next week. So what's your mindset?
No, I got it timed out. I got the timeline. I got one more week at home and then 1 week over there during fight week. But yeah, it's getting close, man. Nearing in.
Do you get the itch since you hadn't fought in a year? Do you got that itch? It's kind of like one of those things since you kind of like you got so much stuff going on that you. I'm not saying that you don't have to fight, but you fight for the love of the sport.
Yeah, no, I definitely get the itch. I mean, this fight is going to be, I think it's 14 months by the time I fight. Since my fight prior to that, 14 months is a long time, man. I've been in the game for I don't know how long, a minute now though, and you know I've stayed pretty active. My UFC debut year, I think I had 5 fights and then 4 fights, and I always stayed active. So anyway, a number of injuries, man, kind of pushed me on the sidelines. 14 months off. I definitely have the itch, man. You know, anytime you take a long leave like that, though, man, the nerves, the anxiety, all that stuff starts building again because you're not really used to it, you know. So I know. Come fight week, man, I'm gonna be feeling it. I'm gonna be nervous. I'm gonna have that kind of anxiety that's there. But you always just kind of adapt to the situation as a fighter and just go with it. Try not to fight it.
What do you know about Dwight Grant? He seemed like to be unknown. Like, is this his promotional debut?
No, not his debut. Got a couple fights, man. I'd never heard of him, to be honest, before they gave me his name. But I looked him up, man. You know, he's as a fighter, breaking him down as an opponent. You know, he's an athletic guy. He's got long arms and he packs a punch, and that's kind of the 3 factors that I'm calculating in when I move around with people, when I'm imagining him as an opponent. You know, he's got good power. He's I want to say he's a young guy, but he's like 32. You know, he's younger than me, but he's not a young guy. He's just got kind of a young record. I think his record is like 9-2 or 10-2. So he hasn't been in the sport quite as long as a lot of us. But yeah, man, like I said, you got to stay out of danger with guys like that, man. He's got long arms, moves well, and when he connects flush, man, he puts guys to sleep. So I plan on staying away from that.
Absolutely. Now, I see you do a lot of breakdowns and like recaps and stuff like that, like on your Instagram and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps your game inside the cage as well, like analyzing guys that way?
I think so, man. Like anybody, I mean, every opponent. I mean, if you were walking into the store and somebody was eyeballing you, you'd probably be sizing up as well. So we all have like a natural instinct of sizing people up. You know, when I see people, I look for the ears if they got cauliflower ears or they're a trained fighter. I look at their neck. If they got a jacked up neck, I'm like, man, this guy could probably take a punch or it's hard to choke. I'm always sizing people up, not in like a negative way, but I look at people and I look at their body structure and I think, what kind of athlete is this person? I do that all the time. It's a natural instinct and we all have it. But as a fight, when you're analyzing fights, you look at things totally different because you take yourself out of the perspective, you take yourself out of the ring and you look at it and say, what does this guy do well? What do I do well? You break down both of them and you analyze it. How would I analyze this fight if I was calling this on the air? And so that gives me more of a professional point of view on it rather than viewing it from what do I do good and what do I want to do. So I use it as an advantage, man. I definitely try to take myself out of the situation, analyze it. What's the highest percentage style of fighting to get this win? And then I try to adapt that. But, you know, Mike Tyson said everything, you know, everybody, you know, until you get hit, everybody got a plan. And that's what happens, man. I go in there very much with a plan. When I get hit, I got a fire inside of me, man. I become a scrapper. So I try to be kind of a technical scrapper when that happens.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because it's funny to see some guys that watch film and like analyze stuff like that, and then other guys don't want anything to do with it. It's always funny to hear that and see that dynamic. I mean, are you able to be that critical of yourself, like when you watch yourself? Or do you have to have somebody else to be like, hey, this is actually something you're not seeing about your own self?
You know what's funny is whenever I fight, you know, and if I win, I'm happy. But after the fight, I feel like, yeah, you know, like it was emotionally, it was dope. It was a roller coaster. It was amazing. But technically, I bet you there's a bunch of ugly shit that would, like, if I took still photos, probably a bunch of ugly stuff. the first time I see a highlight of my fight, I'm always like, oh shit, like oh that looks dope. Like I'm happy, I'm surprised. But then the more and the more I watch it, I become more critical of myself, and I break it down. And I'm like, oh man, like it looked good the first time, but then it's kind of rusty here. So I am kind of hypercritical of myself, man. And I get it. If I wasn't kind of dabbling in the commentary type, breaking down fights, I wouldn't watch quite as much as I do because it gives you anxiety, man. Like just now watching this fight, as these guys are main eventing and Bruce Buffer's calling their name and you can feel the tension in the air. I'm feeling those same emotions as if I'm in there. And it's like, why am I putting myself through this? Why am I not, you know what I'm saying? Like I could be like watching some cartoon or some shit with my son, but yet I'm putting myself through these emotions every single weekend. But I do it because it educates you on the sport, and then there's a familiarity with this feeling that I get watching people. Whenever I have the feeling for myself, then it's like, all right, I've been here, I know this feeling, my heart's pumping. Deal with it. So, it's a love-hate thing that I do all the time.
Hey, you got 13 more days. Remember, you just let us know you got the countdown. Don't get too hyped up for it. So, Alan, just from a commentator's point of view, when you see somebody like Justin Gaethje that's good at what he do, and people look at me crazy when I say he has to fight that way. Like I played basketball in college. And my coach always would tell me, people have to hustle when they play against you because you're more athletic than them. They have to do that just to compete. Does he have to fight that way just to compete? Since he's not as technical, he's not as good as wrestlers, most people. But that's his way of kind of like eliminating that advantage that they got and bringing them to his world, as he says. And he usually wins in that type of fight.
Man, Gaethje's just like he's a special individual, man. He's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? He's deceptive. Like you look at him and he's like, he's a lean, tall guy, and you look like he's probably like some tough dude. But he's deceptively fast and quick. Like when I look at Edson Barboza, his opponent tonight, he in my eyes is when you talk about every piece of the puzzle, check something off the list, he is the top striker in the UFC in my eyes. Just in terms of, I'm not saying he would beat everyone, but when you talk about precision, technique, speed, explosiveness, accuracy, efficiency, he's the best, man. He's the best in my eyes, Edson Barboza. But you see it. Gaethje got in there and started leg kicking the leg kicker. He started punching the precision striker. He knocked out the knockout artist. And Gaethje's just like he adapts, man. He's a wrestler turned striker who has this deceptive quickness about him, man. He's not really like an explosiveness as much as he's just quick. And speed kills, man, and he uses it against everybody. Not to mention, when you've got a granite chin like that, man, it allows you to just push forward, step in the pocket, and he does it, man. But like I said, I picked a lot of people asking, who am I picking tonight? I picked Barboza, but I was like, bro, you can never count Gaethje out. The dude is, what's his nickname? The highlight? He's a highlight reel, man. He's always in the fight, and man, did he proved me wrong tonight.
He made believe it. I was at the Michael Johnson fight. That was his promotional debut. I'm like, let's see if this can work in the UFC. This ain't the World Series of Fighting. And he was getting his ass kicked. And next thing you know, two minutes later, Michael Johnson slept in the corner. This fool flipping off the cage and landing somersaults. I'm like, this cat's the real deal.
and a lesser fighter would have been out. A lesser fighter would have gotten slept by Michael Johnson a couple of times because Michael would hurt him. But Gaethje was just too tough for his own good, kept coming back, and then he put away Michael Johnson. But yeah, I think any other guy, Michael Johnson would have KO'd him. But Gaethje's just tough as nails, man.
The crazy thing is Michael Johnson's not been the same since that fight.
He looked good tonight until he got caught with that right hand.
He was looking quick as hell, man. I was watching Michael Johnson thinking like, man, he's super fast. He's got super fast reflexes. But he just didn't see that one, man, and damn, did he get put to sleep.
Dude, doesn't it kind of like show you like how complicated the sport is? Because like you were saying, like you think, Barboza is like the best striker, right? But that only that gets him so far up to a point. Like Damian Maia is the best BJJ player out there, but it only gets him up to a certain point. And then a guy that is just okay in like all the areas can surpass just because he like may have more heart or may have a little bit better timing or like there's just so many things to this game. It's like it's tough to put, I guess, the pin on like what can happen night in and night out. It's crazy.
I say it all the time, man. With MMA, it's the least sport-driven sport, and what I mean by that is like, you take basketball or football. There's rules and there's props. There's a ball. There's helmets. There's plays. There's referee. There's all these things going on that you could play the game. Even boxing, when you look at boxing, if you're very good at, let's take a Floyd Mayweather. If you're very good at like rolling and covering, you could play the game. You have to be a phenomenal talent. But once you're a phenomenal talent, you could play the game to your advantage. If you could roll and hug up and tie up and reset and jab and dance your way to a victory, whatever it is, you could play the game. In MMA, there's no playing the game. Like, there's the smaller gloves. There's not as many rules as all these other sports. And it's just, there's less cushion for those type of things, where other sports have the timeouts, the gloves, the props, the things like that. MMA is a tough one, man. And like you said, I would kind of argue to what you said, though.
Okay.
I would rather be a killer at one thing than like okay at everything, because killers at one thing get very far. Eventually, they meet somebody who's well-rounded at everything, and they get stopped. But guys that just have a phenomenal overhand right, those guys make it to the UFC, man. Those guys make it to the UFC in like 3 years. You know what I'm saying? They're like, exactly. And they do big things. And but eventually you find somebody. Nobody really stays undefeated. We got a couple of them in the UFC, but nobody really stays undefeated, because eventually somebody finds an opening on you, or you just have an off day, you have a flat day, and in the UFC, a flat day is probably a bad night.
I know you're a purist of the sport. This is why you just broke that down. Because my co-hosts and other people are taught of the whole champ, and I keep telling them it's the way the UFC manages it. If these people could defend that belt, it wouldn't be like in boxing. You have somebody like Lomachenko that's a three division champion, but he's defending them with their no defenses. That makes it quote unquote not so cool. But with that being said, do you think somebody like John Jones, with as great as he is, do you think he needs to be a champ to be on that DC level with all the red flags? Because we can't ignore the red flags.
Yeah, I don't know if you could say. That's a tough one, man, because like John Jones, I think, is arguably the greatest talent the sport has ever seen. DC probably has a better resume, but and DC is from Lafayette. DC is my guy, you know. But it's like, what, John Jones beat DC twice, and if somebody's beating you twice, he's on another level. And if somebody's never officially ever lost like John Jones never has, other than that technical bad decision thing, John's just the greatest. He just needs to get rid of those red flags and shit that he keeps doing, man. It's crazy when you see guys like that are such a talent, man, and they could have gone down in the record books as the greatest, the best the sport has ever seen, and probably doubled their money. But they had so many stumbles along the way, like John Jones has had, cost himself so much money. It's kind of messed up that he did all that. But with all that said, John's on a run as of now. He seems to got himself cleaned up, and he's focused, and he's been fighting like crazy now. And if he keeps this pattern up, this rhythm, John Jones is going to surpass everybody. I mean, maybe he'll have to jump weight classes to earn that champ status, like you're saying. But as far as light heavyweight, he's the best we've ever seen, and the people that he's beaten are some of the best we've ever seen.
Yeah. Hey, technically, your boy DC lost once. That second fight didn't happen according to UFC.
Because of the, you're right. You're right. So
it didn't happen.
So I guess you're right. After John pissed hot or whatever, so that's what, a no contest now, that second loss, huh?
Yeah. So,
or one of them. Yeah. I said that one that John beat DC on, one of them, I guess he pissed hot right after.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember. So
it's funny how funny how they try to scrub it off the thing, but it's like
we didn't see that he was there.
Yeah, it literally happened. Like, I was sitting there on the press row. I'm like, I saw the head kick land. That actually happened, and it's funny how they try to scrub that off the record, and it's like it's never there. I guess when people look back 30 years from now, they won't know. But
where was that at? That was at Anaheim, or
yeah.
I was at that one too. Yeah, I was sitting there, man.
Man, my co-host had a rough weekend that week. Yeah. It's crazy. I was supposed to be out there. I got sick, but I was here in Dallas, so I didn't go. It was like it was meant for me not to be there. And then my co-host, he co-signed that.
Well, we got robbed our first day there.
You got what?
We got robbed. Like all of our equipment. Me and a few other buddies from press that we were there to cover the fights. We got robbed. We decided to actually go get some exercise in for the first time covering a fight during a fight week. And we come back and somebody broke into the car, took everything, and they left us with our clothes.
Oh man,
Yes.
well that sucks, man. I thought you meant like you got like mugged, robbed, like somebody came up and put a gun to you or something. But they robbed your car. They took everything.
Yeah, they took everything out of the car. We came back. Like luckily they left our clothes so we can have something to change into. But like I ended up having to cover the fight from my iPhone, like writing my articles on my iPhone, sitting there cage side. It was madness, but you know.
I'd have been furious, man. I feel you.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it wasn't a very good time, but you know. We made it through. We persevere. We press on.
Yeah.
Speaking of pressing on, man, back to you, and you getting back into the cage. So, like the last time you were supposed to come out, like you had a bulging disc issue with your neck. So, like, how has everything been through training with your neck and getting ready? Like, how is all that stuff feeling?
Good, man. I had probably can't, or maybe you can see it, but yeah, I had a procedure done there on my neck.
Yeah.
Had I had 2 herniated discs, 2 bulge discs. I had one of them fixed up. Man, I had a long year. My last fight, I broke 3 bones in my foot, and then the neck issue occurred, and then I had to get some bones taken out of my elbow, some bone fragments that were floating around. So that's what made the 14 months such a lengthy time off. But all in all, I'm healthy now, man. I'm recovered. I feel good. I've been in camp for 3 months now, which is brutal. I mean, it's such a. I really like to have maybe more a 6 to 8 week camp, but I've been in camp since the beginning of the year, rocking and rolling, hard sparring, hard wrestling. My body feels good. I feel healthy. I'm just ready to get in there, man. Get in there, get the job done. Hopefully, make it one of the best fights of my life. Bringing my family again. My wife will be there. My son will be there. My last fight, I had my son there, and it gave me crazy motivation. It's the first time he had watched me fight live, and knowing he was there, I walked into the octagon and I looked off and I saw him and I made eye contact, and as soon as we did that, I felt like a fire inside of me. And then I was looking at my opponent, and I just felt like normally there's a nervous energy where that you don't want to kind of cross that nervous energy at first until you get punched, and then all of a sudden you let it go. But as soon as I saw my son, the nervous energy was wiped away. And so as soon as the bell rang, I was ready to engage. I was ready to start this fight. I had the blood flow into my system immediately. So I'm looking very much forward to having that feeling again with my son there, knowing I'm in tip-top shape, and just rocking and rolling, man. Anything can happen in this sport, but I feel very confident going into this fight that I've done everything possible to ensure myself victory.
And you kind of alluded to it, that you're a big family man. So how's Alan Jouban outside the cage, and how much longer do you want to do this?
I mean, outside of the cage, I'm pretty chill, man. I like to think that I'm kind of a go-getter. You know, guys that inspire me are like the guys you mentioned, DC, The Rock. You know, guys like that do a little bit of everything, man. Guys that have. Let's take Daniel Cormier, for instance. The guy is a phenomenal wrestler in college, and he goes and becomes an Olympian. He goes and becomes a Strikeforce champion. He goes and becomes the UFC champion. He becomes a double champion in UFC. He becomes a Fox commentator. He becomes a pay-per-view commentator. He's a family man. He coaches his high school or his kids' wrestling team. He owns barbershops, so on and so on. Stuff like that inspires me, man, and that's kind of why I do it. I fight because I've got a passion, and it's something that it's been inside of me my whole life. My family now fuels me. They give me that extra fuel. And aside from those two things, doing great things in life and expanding the next chapter of your life. What's next? You know, what are you going to start? I'm dabbling in commentary. I'm looking into investments and investment properties, and that kind of stuff just keeps me going because like it's hard to stay motivated every day. You know, I mean, you guys know, like you get up some mornings, you just don't have it. And so I'm driving to the gym, and I know I got to go get punched in the face. And I'm like, what is it going to be? Oh, the same song. My same song that I've walked out to for the last 10 years, Gangsta's Paradise. They don't do it anymore. You know, I need something else. I shuffle through the radio stations. I look at cars. I look at houses up in the Hollywood Hills that are $5 million that I want to live in one day. And so I'm always searching for motivation and things that inspire me or things that I want to do. And that's what keeps me going, man. And that's what keeps me and my family kind of like, it keeps this game fun. As far as continuing to do it, man, I'm 37. It's coming close. It's coming to an end, man. It's going to be very sad, but I know that I'm at the point now where I used to never think about my health in terms of like how am I going to heal from it. Now at 37, I've had people say I look younger, but they don't realize that I've got a lot of miles on me, in terms of just injuries and fights. So many times I've broken my hand, my foot, my knee, my shoulder, so many surgeries that I want to be healthy when I leave this sport. I don't want to be – you see a lot of fighters, man, that don't have a lot of money and they're beat up. And you see guys that leave the sport like Conor McGregor, like Floyd Mayweather, full of money and they're still intact. I want to still be fully intact when I leave. So I wouldn't imagine I have more than a year or so of fighting left in me, to be honest.
Hey, let us know when you make the decision. We'll be the guys. Let us know.
I will, man. I will. I don't know when it's going to be. It's one of those things where I think you just kind of know. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know it yet. I still have that fire. But after in the next year or so, I just have this feeling that I'm going to get this feeling inside of me that, you know what, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to put the gloves down. And it's going to be a happy and sad day at the same time. But it's coming near for sure.
I mean, at least you've got, an exit strategy, it seems. Like you got a lot of other things going on. So it's not like you're just retiring and you're going to be sitting on the couch. You're going to be a busy man. I'm sure that's going to keep your mind occupied.
I definitely try, man. I'm definitely trying to set myself up to have a smooth transition after. You see a lot of guys doing that, and I'm trying my best. But, yeah, if I was to retire right now, I'd be in trouble, man, because fighting pays my bills. So I need to keep doing it.
Absolutely. So do you have a prediction for yourself on how this plays out?
Yeah, I don't, man. I'm in phenomenal shape. I know that. So I'm preparing for a possible 3-round battle. I feel like my cardio is second to none right now. I've pushed myself. I give myself situations in training every day where I will not lose. I will not lose. And I've made myself win these small battles day in and day out. So I am prepared to go 3 rounds. He's got knockout power. I need to stay away from that. I always find openings. I set people up. I'm pretty good at setting traps and then finishing them. I plan on doing that, man. And I would love nothing more than to put this guy away, get a big bonus, and then go right off into the sunset that night with the victory. But, yeah, I don't know how it's going to play out, but I'm preparing for a 3-round war, absolutely.
Beautiful, man. And before we let you go, can I get your predictions for the main event and co-main event on that same night? Of course, Max Holloway against Dustin Poirier, and then Kevin Gastelum against Adesanya.
Yeah, okay. So going to be a banger of a main event. I got to be a biased opinion, man, but I got to go with my guy Dustin Poirier, another Lafayette, Louisiana native right there. He's a guy that I didn't know growing up. I didn't know him or DC growing up. But when I go home for the holidays, I meet up with Poirier and I train with him. And it's shocking how good his grappling is because you see hints of it in the octagon. Mm-hmm. But when I roll with him, I'm like, man, this guy has got great wrestling. He's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu, and he's very strong for a 55er. And so that played a part in their first meeting with Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier. And Max Holloway has grown leaps and bounds, and I'm a huge fan of Max Holloway. But I feel like that could play a part in it again. Dustin could use that pressure walking forward. They're gonna be tagging each other up. But I think the X factor is if Poirier gets on top, he's got that finishing capability and that pressure to ground and pound. So I got Poirier in that one. And, man, in the co-main, I like both guys. I really do. I've never met Stylebender, but I see I'm blanking. What's the who's the opponent? I'm forgetting.
Gastelum.
Kevin Gastelum.
Kevin Gastelum, yeah.
Yeah, I see Gastelum quite a bit, and he's a really good guy. But, man, I like Adesanya, man. He's got that style. He's got, like, a swagger about him. And I like where he's at. He's good for the sport. Win or lose, he's good for the sport. He's a fun fighter to watch. He knows how to work the mic. He's got a growing fan base. And I've kind of been saying this, man. I didn't realize there were actually 2 Nigerian fighters on the card tonight. I don't know if you guys saw that. Yes. I wasn't really aware of them. But I've kind of been saying now that the welterweight champion, Usman, is a Nigerian, and we might have a possible interim champion in Adesanya, it might set up like a UFC Africa or something. I don't know. Maybe they'll go and test the waters in South Africa. But it's anytime the sport does new and exciting things, going to a whole new country or continent like that, I want to be a part of it, man. Like I want to, I like ESPN. When we came to ESPN, I want to still be a part of this, and Fox, and and the Dana White era. And if they go and touch down in Africa one day, because we possibly have Adesanya as a champion and we have a welterweight champion in Usman, I want to be a part of that shit, man. I want to be involved in the UFC and break new ground with them and possibly fight on the card. So aside from the style and swagger, I'm kind of rooting for him for that reason as well. But those are my picks for the co-main and the main.
Beautiful. There he is, guys. Alan Jouban joining us on the Slip and Dip podcast, man. We appreciate the time. We are definitely excited for this fight, man. We're excited for the whole fight card. Of course, your return, man. We're excited to see it and see you get your hand raised.
I appreciate it, man. Anytime you guys want to hook up. This was easier than I thought, man. Like, I've been stressing out about interviews because I do a podcast. I think, did Karen Bryant?
Yeah, Karen's a girl. KB's a friend of the show. She's been on twice.
Yeah.
She told me one time, man. She told me, and it was funny because she's gonna kill me for saying this, but she was like, I did this podcast the other day, and it was with some Southern guys, and I was kind of, there was Southern accent, and I felt bad because sometimes I was like, I didn't quite understand what they were saying, and I was like, oh, Karen, you got to get with that Southern accent, yeah, you got to know, and then when I started talking to you guys, I put two and two together, and I was like, oh, this is probably who Karen, the show that Karen went on, and she was talking about you guys. She said she had a fun time, but she told me, she goes, yeah, I did this podcast with some Southern guys. Where are you guys based at and everything?
Dallas.
Okay, out in Dallas. I got you, man. But no, it's a pleasure, man. We could chat it up anytime. What I was getting at was, yeah, you get these interviews and stuff close to the fight, and I've been so locked in with my schedule and training and this and that they stress you out sometimes. But this is nice and easy, man. So I appreciate you guys having me.
Hey, a couple of weeks we can have you back on. Our motto on the Slip in There podcast is, when you ball, you get the call. So you ball in that cage, we're going to hit you up 2 weeks afterwards so you can talk about it.
Hit me up after that victory, man. Hit me up after the victory.
Our list is going. We got Michelle Wallace after tonight. We're going to hit up in the next week or two. That was a dominant performance.
Yeah. Well, I'm down, man. Anytime.